Y'all know what time it is. I was literally about to go to bed, and I was like, wait, shit, I can't forget. So, today's album of the day, uh, Epicurean's 2008 album, A Consequence of Design. So this album was a wild ride, okay? So, I like melodic death metal. So for me, I like death metal. That's my favorite kind of metal. Like of all the styles, if I had to pick between like thrash and like uh black and death, those three specifically, death metal, it's just always on top. I love death metal. I love I love old school death metal. I love modern death metal. I love deathcore, which is funny because I hate on deathcore a lot, but I love old school deathcore. I love melodic death metal. I like symphonic death metal. I like dissonant death metal. Um, I like, I just like death metal. Death grind too. Like death metal is just my favorite kind of metal that there is. So, um, when I got this, just looking at the cover just gave me like early melodic metalcore vibe, and I was actually shocked to find out that this came out way later than I thought it did. I thought this would have come out like 1998 or something because it just looks like a late 90s melodic death metal album cover. But so a little bit of a history lesson. I won't go into too much detail because I don't really feel like I'm the best qualified to talk about it. But melodic metalcore. Okay, let's talk about melodic metalcore. Melodic metalcore originally, when it first started to come into fruition in the late 1990s, was a combination of melodic death metal and metalcore. It wasn't just melodic metalcore, like it wasn't just metalcore that didn't use Phrygian as its musical mode. It was a combination of melodic death metal and metalcore. So that means melodic death metal riffs and melodic death metal, um, like death metal riffing and like the tremolo riffs, death metal vocals, and put that into metalcore. And I find that a lot of early melodic death metal um, was very was still like death metal infused, I guess. Like it wasn't really like as melodic as it would become in the late 2000s, but there was noticeably a lot more melodic elements to it. However, towards like the early 2000s, melodic metalcore shifted towards a more commercialized sound that became very popular, that featured less influence from death metal and more influence from, personally, I would say more influence from post-hardcore, and that's because, MySpace. And MySpace was a huge thing for scene, and scene culture originally was very common with metalcore and very common with post-hardcore, and those combining together, that's how it ended up, becoming the way it became. So let's talk about this album. So this being a melodic death metal album is very progressive. There's a lot of odd time signature changes. I was gonna say I didn't really think I would like it at first because the piano intro sounded like a MIDI piano that I could buy for $1 at the thrift store. But no, they like blew me away. Also, sorry, I'm tired. I am just so fucking tired. So this is gonna sound so incoherent, but yeah, they blew me away with like the riffing and the quality of the the quality of the sound that I was hearing, because I expected that this was just gonna be some cheap sounding melodic death metal. Well, it's gonna sound cheap as fuck because of the piano, but no. There were some synthesized soundscapes all throughout. They did feel a little cheap, but they blended really well with what I was listening to. Um, so I would call this melodic death metal and progressive metal. There's lots of elements of melodic metalcore as well. I mean, I would call this all three. A lot of these songs are very long and they have specific sections. There's acoustic sections, which isn't really uncommon for melodic death metal. That's not a very uncommon thing. Most mellow death albums from like the late 90s, I feel like they always have like that dark acoustic guitar interlude in the middle. That's just kind of how it is. Kind of like how a lot of thrash metal albums, they always got like that acoustic ending track. I don't know what it is with that. And then black metal also usually has that like interlude. But yeah, um, I was blown away by the technicality of a lot of these songs, especially Illumination and Dividing the Distance. Those two I really liked. And I just feel like I I want to give this another chance because I liked it, but I feel like if I listen to it and fully like immerse myself rather than like, oh wow, yeah, this is cool, yeah, like sitting over the CD player like the whole time, but instead like analyzing it, like looking at the insert and just going like, okay, okay, I see what you're cooking up. Because I mean, I don't really focus too hard on like metal in general's lyricism unless I really, really like the song. Or unless it's like alternative metal or like crust punk or D beat, grindcore. Sometimes I might because I like to hear like how they word political issues because I think it's just fascinating how they do that. But anyways, I would recommend this to someone if they maybe if they like Opeth. This feels a little bit like very, very cheap Opeth, kind of. Not really, but like I still get that sense of like progressive metal, similar to how Opeth kind of is, but also similar to Dream Theater in the sense of instrumentation. Not in the sense of like how they sound, really, because this sounds like um, intestinal metabolism. I think that's what metaboly. I don't fucking know. This Japanese mellow death group. I can't remember what their name is. Intestinal ballism. It's intestinal ballism. They sound like if you combined intestinal ballism and Opeth and Dream Theater, and boom, there's your baby. Um, yeah, I honestly, I just feel like a lot of the songs weren't doing it too much for me. They weren't samey, but they weren't like that different. But they weren't samey, if that makes sense. Like they were obviously different songs, but you know what I mean. But yeah, album cover is really fucking pretty, by the way. But yeah, I'm gonna go to bed.